like that, we are back for another episode of the Cozy Corner of Cinema, being recorded on episode number. Being recorded on on Wednesday, January 8th, 2025 at 10:18 p.m. This is episode number 145. There we go. I'm very sick right now. Uh, it's yeah, no, I apologize. That's a great way to start the episode. I'm very sick at the moment. My lips are very swollen. My lips are very dry. I have cuts all over the place. It is just a mess right now. But I have not missed a week yet, and I don't plan to anytime soon. So we're gonna keep on moving on. It is a very cold night. These days have been getting so chilly. I had to walk out to my car today to get some stuff in there, to put some stuff in there. And even just being outside for that minute, my gosh, man, it was like running to safety back inside, running to that nice warm air. So make sure you're layering up. Make sure you are wearing appropriate clothing, man. I used to know dudes who would be, in the middle of winter, and these dudes are walking around in shorts, man, talking about, I don't feel it. I don't feel a thing. I say, brother, if you ain't lying, then you might got to see a doctor, man. Maybe some nerve endings cut off there. It's nonsense. But these kind of nights are just so wonderful. These are the nights to stay in, to get under the covers, to read some books, to watch a film, to do anything inside, man. Really, kind of that cozy mentality, that kind of cozy state, not going out, not meandering around. I mean, it's just you meet so many people. These are like event kind of focused people where they're like, oh man, I get through the work week, and then at the end of the week, I get to do this on Saturday, or at the end of the week, I get to do this on Friday, blah blah blah. And it's like, it's a wild way to live, man, because you're basically hoping that every week goes by fast, and then you wonder, wow, what happened all the time, man? It feels like it was just 2024, now it's 2025. It's like, yeah, man, because every day you say you want it to be Friday. Every day is such a gift, such a blessing to achieve what we need to get done. Our writings, our paintings, our drawings, the films to watch, the books to read, and there is no shortage of any of that. So, in this sick state, I am not of the most sound mind to get thoughtful, meaningful writing done. So I'm going to use that time, and I'm going to focus on literature, on films, man. That's what I've devoted my life to, is the cinema, man. Just about finished with that John Belushi book. I have about 20 pages left. I thought I was closer, but I suppose not. And we're going to wrap that up pretty soon. I got a whole stack of books in the other room, gifts from acquaintances and loved ones. And it's just so great, man. It's just so great to see the queue of books, so many interesting things to read, and still even more beyond that. Going to a used bookstore and smelling in, the scent of all the old paper and the custom logos from the shop themselves on tote bags, on stickers, on baskets if they have them to get books and different sections of history. And I love thumbing through like the history section of a bookstore, man. The film section, of course, that goes without saying. I love looking at like the World War II books and the books on like the Napoleonic Wars. And gosh, it's just so comforting, man, hearing the creaking of the wooden tiles, man, or the wooden floorboards, I should say. Hearing myriad discussions from people all around talking about this book or that book, or oh, this one sounds interesting, or oh, are you familiar with this one? It's the fact with video stores being basically gone, besides independently owned ones, the bookstores have a unique quality in their own right, of just having that feeling of reading a book is a commitment more so than in this specific context of a film. Because a film you watch 2 hours, you say, okay, that was good, that was bad. With a book, you're devoting a lot more time to that. So it's a fun commitment, though, to kind of lose yourself in a book, and when you're done with it, be like, man, I went on a journey, whether it be fiction or nonfiction. I primarily read nonfiction. I really don't read any fiction. Nothing against it. If I'm going to devote my kind of time to something like this, I want to really kind of gain some knowledge out of it. But of course, as long as you are enjoying yourself reading and enjoying yourself watching these films and working on your art, your creative endeavors, or your personal endeavors, I mean, people talk about, oh, new year, I got new resolutions. And then by the end of the week, they go, ah, well, I always got next year. So, I mean, today is Wednesday after all. So hopefully you guys are keeping through with your resolutions, learning that new language, learning a new instrument, maybe going out more, maybe going out less. There's no right or wrong way to do it, man. I ain't the one to tell you how to live your life as long as you're not hurting yourself or anybody else. I'm a staunch believer in that, man. Maybe don't go out there and smoke a bunch of crack. Maybe go out there and see your friends, or go out there and feed the homeless, or maybe don't go out at all. Maybe you stay in, or you get under the covers. Maybe watch a film, you watch a show. It's your life to live, man. You gotta really kind of be completely aware of it while we're still living. That doesn't mean to, be scared of the end, man. A lot of people say, "Oh man, I'm scared of dying. I'm scared of dying." It's really just, man. It's the unknown. It's we all have ideas what we think will and won't happen, and there's only one way to find out, man. So, but when we find out, it'll be our time. And if you're listening to this and if you're breathing, then it's not your time, man. So just keep on with it. You're gonna have good days, gonna have bad days, but ultimately, it's such a joy and such a precious thing to be here that we cannot and will not take it for granted, man. So, yeah, no, man. As I'm saying all this, I feel my lips getting swollen, man. So I'm gonna pause this just for 1 second, and but you listening, you won't even notice. So let's do a brief kind of pause right here. All right, I bet when you're listening to this, you're like, "What? He was gone? Now I'm back." Gosh, man, an acquaintance of mine was telling me that Arrow Video is currently having a sale at Barnes& and Noble, which is very cool. I don't know if it's online or store only, or online only, store only, whatever. But I have had mixed luck at Barnes& and Noble getting titles. I'm looking at, I don't know how long the sale is going on for, but I'm looking at some of the new titles this month, and specifically, really looking forward to picking up Incubus on 4K. I've talked about that film before. That's one of my favorite discoveries of the last couple of years. I say discovery, but I've known about the film for a very, very long time, at least since high school. Maybe even before that. I hadn't even officially seen it until a couple years ago and was just so wowed by it. And it's a film that I think was kind of, I don't know, I can't really speak because I didn't really do a whole lot of research, but I think was kind of lumped in as to being like, oh, it's kind of a corny movie, William Shatner, and it's like, nah, man, this is like a really cool, really unnerving folk horror film, and I'm not even the biggest folk horror fan, nothing against it, those films just don't typically appeal to me. I don't really seek those out, even though I end up liking most of the ones I see, which is funny. Like the Russian film. I think that's Russian, or I don't know where it's from. The one that Severin Films put out. What a really unique and cool film, man. It's almost like a dark comedy in a way, because of how out there it gets. And I mean, from what I can remember, I saw it once when it came out a couple years ago, and I watched Lake of the Dead from 1956, a film that I'd been unfamiliar with, and that was another one that I was like, wow, this is a cool film. So I end up actually liking a lot of the ones that I see. I just don't typically seek them out. And Incubus as well. I mean, I guess would fit into that mold. But that'll definitely be picked up before the end of the month. And I see that I'm on Diabolic DVD's website right now, so I'm just looking at some of the titles I've been putting out recently that they have in stock, and I was looking at Severin putting out those Russ Meyer films, which is really cool. Vixens, Super Vixens, and Beneath the Valley of the Ultra Vixens. And I don't remember which one it was that had that really crazy scene of the bathtub, or like the bathroom fight. It's not even a fight, it's really more like just a beatdown. But it's this ridiculous scene, and I don't remember which one it was from, but I never forgot that. The guy jumping on the door, and the lady underneath the door. It is one of those, I mean, it's truly one of those moments I'm watching, I'm like, I cannot believe what I am watching. This is so insane right now. And I know it's one of those films, but I don't remember which one. But I don't know if that will be a case for more Russ Meyer films coming to home media. I'm sure people are eager to get some of his bigger films like Faster Pussycat, and I think it'd be cool to get his early kind of like nudie cuties They all kind of blend together. Unfortunately, I saw them fairly close to one another. So those are ones that you watch primarily for kind of historical context or context of what would become, the evolution of adult films. I mean, you look at like the immoral Mr. T's, and I remember parts of that film, but I really couldn't give you a definitive kind of breakdown. And a lot of those films are not about the plot. They are about, hey, you go to the cinema, you see a bunch of nude girls, they're playing volleyball, and they're sunbathing, and then you have some goofy kind of host of the, well, I haven't host, we have some goofy kind of main guy who's like, oh my god, all these naked girls, this is crazy, this is great, and you watch it for that context. You're not gonna be sitting down and saying like, "Man, I'm gonna watch this film because I really get something out of it." Man, you watch it because you see where Russ Meyer started off. You see where these kind of films started off. He did like Even the Handyman and Heavenly Bodies and just a lot of stuff like that. And then later on, would do stuff like like I said before, Faster Pussycat and Up, Cherry Harry and Raquel. Beyond the Valley of the Dolls, Lorna. Some good, some not so good. But last year, or a couple of years ago, I went through his filmography. I probably even talked about him on the show. But interesting filmography. I got to read that book too. What the hell's that called? I always forget the name of it. It's like the only book, the big book, Square Jaws and something Bosoms or something like that. I don't know. It'll be read in due time. I got all these books in the other room. Anything I'm trying to get that book right now. Man, if I found it at a bookstore, it'd be one thing. But it'll be put to the pile of other books to read. Other books to read, indeed. Speaking of filmmakers, been going through the work of a filmmaker I've talked about a couple times before on the show, Mr. John Schlesinger. And I am now up to his sixth film, his sixth studio film, or I should say just his sixth film as his feature film, 1971's Sunday Bloody Sunday, which I had seen previously. And just for a breakdown at this point of his filmography, his freshman film was A Kind of Loving. Then he had Darling. Then he did Billy Liar. Oh, no, I'm sorry. Wait, I think he did Billy Liar and then Darling. My bad. And then he did Far from the Madding Crowd. He did Midnight Cowboy after that. And then I am up to Sunday Bloody Sunday. And I think that is the last of his films that I have seen. I don't think I have seen his films after that. I know that the quality is a little all over the place. But, I've also seen Marathon Man from 1976, which is a wonderful film, which I'm looking forward to revisiting, reteaming up with Dustin Hoffman. Roy Scheider's in that film, too. And actually, I didn't know he did a TV movie of Separate Tables. Now, that's got to be based off a play, I would assume. I don't know if it's directly remade from the 1958 film. A really excellent film. David Niven, Burt Lancaster. That's a really solid drama that feels like a play. It feels very adult for its time, more so than a lot of films that would come out in the 1960s that kind of they had more free reign out of the Hays Code to talk more frankly about sex, but then just did it in a really kind of clumsy way. Whereas something like Separate Tables, is a decade before. I mean, it's 1958, so if we're going to the end of the 60s, let's just push it back to maybe about 65, 66, so 5-6 years earlier, are dealing with talks of sleeping around and these sort of adult issues in a far more mature and interesting way than just something like well, I don't want to name any films. I'm not dogging any films, but it's just some of the big films that were coming out that were like, hey, look at us, we can now talk about this. And but yeah, he would do other stuff later on. He did like Day of the Locust, Honky Tonk Freeway. The last of his kind of streak, at least what I got from the book, was The Falcon and the Snowman from 1985. I think Sean Penn's in that. And then afterwards, I've not heard, at least from the book, the reception of his later films not being too positive. It starts out kind of with the troubled production of The Next Best Thing with Madonna and Rupert Everett, and he was sick when he was making that film. He did not get along with Madonna and Rupert Everett. Madonna was very cruel to him. Rupert Everett had a strange relationship with him. He was they would get along one second, wouldn't get along the next. It's just it's a mishmash of everything kind of going wrong for a final film. But it's funny, this book, this guy can, have this string of successes, these really kind of excellent mature films, and even goes on to win Best Picture for Midnight Cowboy. Really kind of a landmark for the I think the ultimate transitional film from the '60s into the '70s of what it represents and what is actually on screen. And I say when I say what it represents, I don't solely mean just for the culture, but I mean this idea of this old-fashioned kind of cowboy in a contemporary New York, and the times that are changing. Just somebody who is not the obliviousness of it, and having just recently rewatched Midnight Cowboy, which I won't go into here, but it's a film that just truly gets better every time you watch it. It's so strange calling a film perfect, because that really is saying so much. I mean, when you're saying it's perfect, I mean it goes beyond just being a brilliant film. It's now saying that there's not a blemish on it. And that is one of very few films, maybe only a couple, that I would say is a perfect film. Rewatching it again, I truly couldn't even think of any issue with the film. There was no line of dialogue, there was no editing decision, there's no narrative decision, there's no musical decision. There's nothing in that film that I would even remotely be able to nitpick at. And even watching it this last time, getting so emotionally invested in a story I know like the back of my hand, in a film that I know the back of my hand, I should say, because I've actually not read the novel, which I probably should by now at this point, to get some context. But just knowing the outcomes of some of these events, some of these characters, some of these decisions that these characters are making, the true tenderness of this relationship between Joe Buck and Ratso is so touching. Far more. I've talked about this before, so I won't go into it, but I think it's far more endearing in a intimate way that's not romantic, of two people who need each other, who don't think they need each other, who don't think they need anybody, two complete outsiders, who I mean, I've gone into it before, so I won't go into it again, but it's a perfect film. I have nothing that I can even remotely nitpick at, unless I was just trying to just make up something. But the of his films that I hadn't seen before, or at least there's films that I hadn't seen this film before, but going through it again, I was really taken aback by how much I loved Billy Liar from 1963. I put together a list of my favorite kind of first time watches and discoveries of the previous year, and this was on it. I really love this film because his earlier work I like, but I guess I don't have quite the strong emotional attachment to. A Kind of Loving and Darling, I think are both well-made films and are both good films, but I don't quite walk away with much of an emotional connection. Darling was actually that was the second time I had seen it, and even still, there's a certain coldness that I couldn't really heat myself up to. But Billy Liar, I was the complete opposite. I think especially the last 30 minutes of this are so brilliantly done. This character who wants to kind of break from his normal life, break from what would be a comfortable existence to something more, and the nervousness and the sort of anxiety with it, and just these really in just this long sequence that goes on from one place to another, and there's a whole bit of the train station that I don't want to go into, because I think just watching it, I mean, I think we can all relate being in a situation like this where, you hype yourself up. You're like, I'm going to do this. And then when you actually get to it, it's like, you're gonna nut up or shut up, It's, I mean, going back to Dustin Hoffman, like at the end of The Graduate, without spoiling it for those who haven't seen it, but that's a similar kind of situation of somebody who is hyping themselves up. Are they going to do it? They're not going to do it. And then, well, what happens because of that? What happens if they do it? What happens if they don't do it? Is there a right answer to this? No, ultimately. And this character played by Tom Courtenay is in that situation. I really was so taken aback by this film. It's funny, but it's not like laugh out loud funny. There's a lot of just little moments that are great. Some of the bigger moments I don't think totally work for it. There's some running gags like this marching band with him that I don't. I'd be interested to kind of read the part in the making of the book, in the book about this film, for just solely that context. I don't know if it was a marching band or it was a parade. I think it may have been both. But just a really mature film, and it's interesting, kind of him having this streak of films of A Kind of Loving and Billy Liar and Darling, and then he does Far from the Madding Crowd from 1967, which is a big, based off a novel, big kind of grandiose sort of film. It's a long film, but two and a half. Well, not I mean long, and so to speak. It's almost 3 hours. And it's interesting for the context, but I really wasn't very interested in the film. I'm truthfully not that familiar with Far from the Batting Crowd as is. I know there's been many, many, many adaptations of it, so perhaps that kind of distance separated me from enjoying the film more. But it is such an interesting anomaly. He does this very British, very don't even really want to say bourgeois. That's really not the appropriate term, the appropriate word for it. But very higher class, upscale sort of film, and then going from that to, I mean, going from that, from Darling to this, and then to Midnight Cowboy is such a interesting kind of tangent. And the fact that somebody like Schlesinger is able to capture that isolation in Midnight Cowboy so well. This sort of lost in the big city, a character who has had a very traumatic past. They're not completely. There's enough hints to kind of get to connect the dots, but the inner turmoil of this character of somebody who has to, who maybe doesn't know if he can deal with this trauma in his past. It's such a haunting film, such a brilliant film. I mean, it's a film that I really cannot speak highly enough of. I mean, I recommend that book I talked about a while ago. I'm blanking on the name of it, but you can look up just the Making of Midnight Cowboy book, biography, which they made into the film. That I'm blanking on the name of as well. I should probably actually just look these things up instead of trying to remember it. The book was called Shooting Midnight Cowboy, Art, Sex, Loneliness, Liberation, and the Making of a Dark Classic. Written by Glenn Frankel, which was then the inspiration for the documentary Desperate Souls, Dark City, and The Legend of Midnight Cowboy, which is a pretty good documentary. R.I.P. to Nancy Biersky. She passed away last year, I believe, or 2 years ago. She passed away 2 years ago. We raise our glasses to you, Nancy, wherever you may be listening to this. God bless you. Thank you for making a film like this. We are forever in your debt and are forever thankful. And it's a good documentary. It's not a great documentary. I do think it does meander a bit in the second half. It starts to go, I think, too far away from the film. I mean, there's so much to cover in the context of this era of just the Vietnam War, the student protests, a general kind of pessimism and nihilism in the air that would end up kind of infecting, the 70s as a whole. In terms of its films, of its culture, of its pop culture, that there's so much to get into there that I think the book is a stronger kind of resource for that regard. But the film was a good companion piece as well, and it was funny. I'm watching Megalopolis, and I guess I don't even make the connection that we have John Voight and Dustin Hoffman in it, first time since Midnight Cowboy in the film together. Would have liked some more scenes, the two of them together. It was funny. I'm watching the film and I'm liking it, but Dustin Hoffman, I was laughing. I'm thinking, I'm like, man, it looks like he just wandered on set. I don't think he knows what movie he's in, because I'm like, and then he just disappears. I'm like, where the hell did he go, man? He's just out of the movie. I think he's in the movie for about 5 minutes. It's ridiculous, man. But hey, we hopefully can get a physical release of that soon. I mean, I know that Lionsgate announced that 4K, but nothing yet. So. Geez Louise, man. Gosh, I'm sick as a brick, man. If you hear a kind of raspiness in my voice, I'm trying to kind of keep up the energy, the attention for this episode. But mind is a little foggy at the moment. So yeah, man, it's good to to go through these filmmakers' filmographies to just get a newfound context for a lot of these films. If you watch Far from the Madding Crowd on Excel and you're kind of like, that was okay, or that wasn't very good, but then you watch it in the context of, wait, he made this when. And I didn't really talk about Sunday Bloody Sunday. It's a pretty good film. I'm not quite enamored with it as I maybe, not even should say I thought I would be. But I mean, there was such a large portion of that book devoted to, or such a loving portion of the book devoted to the film, and how proud Schlesinger was, and how it didn't originally connect until later with people. And I liked the film, but again, I think there is a little bit of distance in, I don't know, some of the characters and some of the, I don't know, I don't really connect with the film that well. But it is a very good film. Obviously, if you can't watch any film by a filmmaker and go, well, it's not as good as his last film, especially when your last film is Midnight Cowboy. So I mean, and I've been guilty of that before in the past. I'm like, well, it wasn't as good as his last film, and then I'm like, what am I doing, man? It's ridiculous. I'm falling exactly to the kind of criticism that the book does, where it's like, man, you win a Best Picture Oscar, you have all these awards, there's acclaims, and you do all these films, and you do one dud, and everyone says, oh, you're out of here, man, get the hell out of Hollywood, we don't want you anymore. But I guess nowadays, it's kind of like more of a couple duds, they wait to kind of get you out of there. I don't know, thinking of some examples of filmmakers. Maybe not, actually, I don't know. I might be talking out of my ass on that one. Excuse my French. But anyways, yeah, Sunday Bloody Sunday. It's a very good film. I don't know if that even has a Blu-ray or not. Someone's got to look that up. I'm not gonna. I'm not loading up the app right now to look that up. What's next after Sunday Bloody Sunday? I got to take a look at this. I just had the page up right here, and I immediately clicked out of it. Somebody who's smarter than I is probably screaming, "This is the film that comes after Sunday Bloody Sunday. This is the one." I go, "Okay, I can't hear you. You're on the other side of this the speaker, man. I'm just the voice on the other side of your speaker, man. Whether you're listening to this in your car, in your telephone, in your earbuds." That's right. He did one of the segments for Visions of 8, and then he did Day of the Locust. Maybe I can keep an eye on that and see if I can pick up that release from Arrow at the store at Barnes & Noble. There we go. I say it out loud, and I put the plan together. So, hey, raise your glass to you. I actually have a cup in my hand. So raise our glasses, our cups to you for listening. Thank you for lending me your ears for this amount of time. I wanted to get this episode out because, as sick as I may be, life does not stop just because we have a boo-boo. We got to keep on going, keep on moving, and get our rest, man. I'm guilty of that. I say I should be practicing what I preach, but get your rest, man. I'm guilty of staying up too late and then going, why am I so tired in the morning? And they're like, man, because you're staying up so late, and that's my own fault, so... There's so much to watch, there's so much to read, there's so much to write. It won't all get done, but my God, man, we're gonna take every day by the horns, man. We're not gonna be event-driven people. We're gonna be daily people. We're gonna go, today's a beautiful day. And if it's not, we're gonna make it a beautiful day. We're gonna have good days. We're gonna have bad days. That should never deter us from living the life that we want to live, man. It's just way too beautiful to throw away or to toss aside or treat casually. It's no day is guaranteed, so if you're listening to this right now, well, hey, God bless you, I raise my glass to you, and that's all I really got to say. So thank you guys for listening to this episode, and Peephole Pictures, new episode coming soon. That's a guarantee, and that's all I got. All right.